I recall back in 2023 when I was campaigning with my ACT colleagues around the country. One of the campaign modules I was looking after was, of course, law and order. And we went around the country asking people what they thought about law and order. And we heard them. They spoke to us about the need to restore law and order within our country, their concerns about victimisations around New Zealand, and wondering how did the mongrel mob get given $2.75 million while victims were still struggling to come to terms with our justice system. We talked about sentencing and their concerns also around Section 27 cultural reports and why people were being hit on the hand with a wet bus ticket instead of being made accountable for their actions. Mr. Speaker, they were concerned about the prison reduction targets and also the amount of retail crime that was being experienced from one end of the country to the other. They saw violence going up. They saw gang numbers going up. They saw youth crime going up, ram raids going up, victimisation going up. They saw utter disrespect for society, for systems, for communities, even for whānau. And so what has this government done in its first 12 months? Well, we haven't even got to 12 months yet, Mr. Speaker, but I'll let you know what it is that we have done. The first thing that we did as part of the ACT coalition agreement was abolish Labour's prison reduction targets. The second thing we have done as part of our ACT coalition agreement is bring back three strikes legislation, and that is being heard by the Justice Select Committee now. We've also stopped the paying of the cottage industry that became the Section 27 cultural reports. Mr. Speaker, that went from 3,000 taxpayer dollars per month to $6 million per annum. That has stopped. And these are all ACT policies because we listened, we heard, and we have implemented, Mr. Speaker. What else have we done? Well, we've just introduced the firearms prohibition orders into legislation, giving police the ability to search those in the legal possession of firearms to make sure that we get those firearms away from those that should not have them. We have prioritised victims by making sure that under the Court's Remote Participation Amendment Bill, which is now in Act, allows victims to be heard either by audio or audio-visual instead of having to be re-traumatised every time they go into the house. Mr. Speaker, we've also today introduced the MAG, the Ministers' Advisory Group for Retail Crime, headed by Sunny Kushal, with the right people of Ash, Lindsay, also having Michael and Caroline on board. And we're doing more there, Mr. Speaker, so much more. We're changing the Sentencing Act to ensure that preventing repeat sentencing discounts stops. We're making sure, another ACT policy, that those sole charge workers who have their home and business where they work or make sure that they, if attacked, have it as an aggravating factor at sentencing. Mr. Speaker, we want to make sure that the victims are looked after and that their interests are taken into account when sentencing occurs. And there's going to be more aggravating factors as well, Mr. Speaker. Children who are used to offend by adults will make sure that adults have that as an aggravating factor against them. And not only that, those criminals that use these devices to go about filming themselves while they commit crimes, that will be an aggravating factor if indeed they put that up on social media too. There's other legislation that's going through this House, Mr. Speaker, restricting the sentencing discounts to a maximum of 40% only, and another ACT policy making sure that a member of a gang is an aggravating factor at sentencing. We are delivering, Mr. Speaker, and there's so much more that we're going to do. 12 months, we've got 24 left to go.